think at that last meeting. Oops.
No.
She claimed that they'd taken care of that when it came up at the last time, and I just wondered if that was in fact true.
I don't know.
But I don't know.
Oh, when are they going to get back on the the butters questions? That whole
they're getting, sorry, I'm just distracted because I'm trying to share my screen right now to open up the meeting because I started, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. We started recording because we have a quorum now, so I had to start recording. But no, they're coming back on the 15th with that. And we're going to be requesting, we've already requested written responses, and I think that they indicated they would do that, but I'm going to reinforce that we want those responses in writing prior to the meeting.
So another thing I just wanted to let you guys know is that on the 15th, I actually have a program in Newburyport that goes from 4 to 6. I should be back in time, but I may be a little late on the 15th, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my real job.
Sometimes those things interfere. That's okay. Yes. We will just, it's okay to come in late to the meeting too.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you probably don't know what's on the agenda yet for that meeting, but I just wanted to flag that. So you know.
Okay. We have a few items on that agenda. Actually, the biggest one for the 15th will be the Merrimack River Dredge project on the agenda. Yeah.
So speaking of which, Julia, do you have any sense of the meeting that's coming up this Friday? Was it the sense that we should participate in that if we can?
If you're interested, we don't have the agenda or the link for that yet. These days they tend to send that out like at the last minute, but when I get it, I will forward it to you. And my guess is that there's going to be some discussion of this dredge project because they have put together the application materials, the permitting applications. So probably talk a little bit about some of those details, probably also talk about the Reservation Terrace project. Aside from that, I'm not really sure what's on the agenda. There's always, lately they do these legislative updates. It's a lot of, the legislators coming and talking about what they've been doing. So that'll probably be on there.
Okay.
I'll let you know I'll send it out when I get it.
I mean, given that this seems to be happening on a number of different levels, that whole project, can somebody tell me like what ends up being our role in terms of that going forward and under what circumstances?
The dredge, you mean?
Yes. I mean, do we actually have any authority at this point about what happens?
They're submitting a notice of intent for it actually right now. So that's going to be, we'll have a notice of intent for that on our agenda on the 15th. We have their draft copy. They need to make some few changes and we should get their final notice of intent tomorrow. So it'll go up on the website. And you guys will be able to take a look at those details, but yeah, they'll need an order of conditions from the commission.
Is this happening before or after the ENF?
Probably before. I think what it is they needed to get the order of conditions in order for the ENF to move forward. So that's why they wanted to be on our agenda early. The whole permitting timeline that they have. All right. Oh, hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay. Yeah, a beautiful day today.
Gorgeous. I was out in your neighborhood earlier today looking at the project on Marsh Street, 3 Marsh Street. Yeah. Just wanted to check out that area. It's really pretty down there.
Yeah. Not very many egrets yet, but they will come.
They will come. We have Gretchen.
No Gretchen yet. But it will start at 6:45. She'll have to catch up. Here's Ron. Hi, Ron.
Ron.
Hi, Ron.
Hey,
I didn't say hi to Paul, David, or Steve either. So, hi, guys.
Did you all see in the paper
you
that
go.
the legislature is trying to extend the online meetings, online public meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it till the fall? They're extending it the way it is.
Sounds like it.
yes,
Yeah.
it sounds like they want to do it until the fall while they have time to make it permanent.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Like it. All right.
Never going to get that beer.
What's that?
You're never going to get that beer you promised.
Oh, yeah, you are. We just meet. We'll just meet after the meeting. All right, let's get this meeting going. Bring this meeting to order. This is the Newburyport Conservation Commission meeting on June 1st, 2021 on the Zoom platform. This meeting is being recorded. The first item on the agenda are approval of the May 18th, 2021 minutes. Anybody have any comments or changes or?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, Paul Healy,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, next item, Plum Island updates. We have talking about the MRBA meeting earlier.
There's a proposed MRBA meeting for this Friday, the 4th at, I believe it's 10 a.m. But there is no link or agenda that have been distributed yet. So I will send that out to you when I get it.
Was there any damage over the weekend from high tides and whatever?
I was out there today and I didn't see any new damage, but it has gotten worse over the past, let's say, month and a half, a little bit worse. So little by little, maybe some higher high tides are eating away. Nothing dramatic that I could see.
Okay. We had that, what was that Newbury meeting called last week? I don't remember what it was.
Oh, the
Resiliency?
Yeah,
fiscal
The
implications of sea level rise for Plum Island.
yeah. So that happened.
And the
And
second meeting is this week.
the next one is on the 3rd.
Right.
So at 6:30. So, and that one's going to focus on the economic, I think.
Yes, that's going to provide an overview of the economic and fiscal analysis that was done of Plum Island now, and then under these 3 scenarios into the future, to kind of show some costs and benefits of different different management options out there. It'll be very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first one was kind of scary.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else for Plum Island?
Not that I have.
All right. In that case, after I stop coughing, we can move on to ITW Shine Mark, 5 Malcolm Hoyt Road, request for determination.
Let's see. I think it is, all right, Matt, I'm going to allow to talk. Who, if you're here for this project to represent it, raise your hand and I will make you a panelist. Yeah. Going to I'm going to promote you to a panelist, Matt. And you should be able to unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Matt Steinell. I'm from Millennium Engineering. I am here tonight to represent the application for the RDA before you for 5 Malcolm Hoyt Way for ITW. Julie, I don't know how you want to do this, if you want to control the screen or if you want me to share my screen so I can kind of pan around, or
you should just tell me where to zoom in. I also have, well, that's a different RDA. Tell me where you'd like me to go in the application, and I'm happy to have brought up the plan, and I will zoom in wherever you'd like.
Sure. Okay. So the plan that's before you here is for the construction of 3 new concrete pads in areas that are subject to the Wetlands Protection Act as well as the Newburyport Wetlands Bylaw. The focus of this here is there's 2 on the right-hand side of the building as it's oriented in front of you now. One of them is located in the lawn area. Another is located further outside of the buffer. You can see the 100-foot buffer there. So that one is also in the lawn area, but outside of the buffer. And then one additional one on the left-hand side of the building that is located entirely in a paved surface area. So the engineers who were working on this provided a nice narrative that kind of described what each pad was being used for, but essentially they're there to house additional equipment that would be placed on these pads. So once they are constructed and the equipment is placed, there'd be no further disturbance continuing from the ongoing use of them. However, there are impacts that will occur during the installation of those pads. As a result, the engineers calculated the square footage of disturbance within the buffer zones, and as mitigation for that, they have proposed the installation of 3 native species tree plantings, as well as the removal of a concrete sidewalk along the top portion of the building there, and they're going to replace that with a pervious gravel surface. It's a very basic plan, with the disturbances being mitigated through the reduction of impervious surface elsewhere within the buffer. And then the minor impacts to lawn for that one pad that's within the buffer there is going to be mitigated with the installation of the 3 new tree species on the site. We've proposed the use of Nyssa savanica as the tree in the corner of the plan there. I believe there's a tree planting detail. And I'm not sure if they included an actual photo of the tree. We do have one that we can provide the board, but it is one of the plants that is identified in a lot of the accepted tree species throughout the several different municipalities, including Salisbury, Rowley, Amesbury, and I believe Newburyport has it on their list as well for species acceptable outside of the wetland, but within a wetland buffer environment. Straightforward. I won't talk your ear off. If the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody?
It looks
Pretty
good.
straightforward.
Yeah. Good to me.
Make a motion for a -3 determination.
Second.
The conditions being the trees and the impervious surface change.
Okay, we have a second. So roll call: Paul Healy.
Yes.
Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
Yes.
Carol Wagon.
Yes.
I vote yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Next item is Louisa Tanner and John Watkins, 260 Northern Boulevard, request for determination.
Okay. Now let's see if you're here to represent this project. Tom, I'm going to move you to a panelist. Anyone else who wants to participate representing the project directly can raise their hand and I'll promote them as well.
Good evening. Olympia Bowker, I think, is also out there.
Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can get her over. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Hold on one sec.
And I think the homeowners are out there too, but but I don't think we need to elevate them to panelists.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting here on behalf of Louisa Tanner and John Watkins for 260 North and or Northern Boulevard. The site, is, you can kind of see, if you want to zoom in right on that cover, that aerial kind of speaks a lot. It's a pretty developed site. It's situated between Northern Boulevard and Reservation Terrace on the backside. It's not too far from the town parking lot, city parking lot. And if we can go to the next, probably to the
photos.
Yeah. So it's mapped within the AO zone. We did, I think, provide the flood map and all that. But so you can kind of see the site has some paved drive. It has a bunch of pavers. It's it's lawn. It's certainly the whole site is something you wouldn't allow today, but it's a existing structure, and it's actually, there are 2 homes on the property. What is proposed is on the house that you see there is a large renovation, 2nd floor on top of the first, and as part of that, reconfiguring the entryways, which is the only work really happening on the ground. If we can maybe go down to the site plan, or actually if you go to the
architectural
elevation views, yeah, so you can see the 2nd floor gets expanded, and if you can see the deck in the upper left, that deck that's on the left-hand side that's tan, the area that's open underneath, basically that's a reconfigured entryway that is smaller than what's on the ground right now. And then in your upper right, you can see the entryway on the right-hand side. I believe that's the other area that is being redone. If we can now go to the site plan, you'll see, we basically marked it up with the red is the stuff that's being removed. The area within the footprint of the house there is all 2nd floor. And we clouded up the areas that'll be used for contractor parking and or dumpsters. You can see the area on the left where we're removing, and Julie, if you can drill down a little bit to see the numbers. Everett's got the actual numbers in those notes. So we have removed 101 square feet of deck and replaced with new 56 square foot stairs, open at least 3 feet above grade. And that is going to be constructed on helical pile. And then the new entry, which is on the right, new covered entry, stair and landing, and no skirting, and that's going to be 37 square feet. So that's all that's happening on the ground, which is why we filed the RDA. Given the extent of the renovations, we did also provide you with an extensive packet related to the substantial improvement rules. So I guess with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if you want more information about the substantial improvement stuff, Olympia Bowker's here, who can address that package. She helped put that whole thing together.
Yeah, I'm going to need more info on the substantial improvement part, because this seems like a rather substantial improvement to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I think why don't we maybe have Olympia walk you through the package, which is after the RDA. So if you can go down, right, so right there is where the package begins. And Olympia, do you want to kind of walk through the substantial improvement information?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. Yeah, so substantial improvement. For this project, as you know, if enough improvement is done to the property, it does have to be elevated on pilings and built to comply with floodplain and flood resiliency requirements. And so what the Newburyport Wetlands Ordinance provides are really specific performance standards. It's called the 25-50% rule. And there's 2 ways to determine whether a project does indeed qualify as a substantial improvement. Let me pull up, let's see, we'll start on page 2 of the narrative. I don't know if it's helpful for you to look at it while I discuss it, but Roman numeral 1 is analysis under regulation section 6B1. This is the 25% rule. This provides that if the project increases the structure's pre-project square footage of habitable living space by 25% or more, then the entire house needs to be placed on pilings. This project as proposed, while it does increase the second floor, it does not cross that 25% threshold. The existing square footage of the structure, well, we calculated this 2 ways just to kind of cover all of our bases. Using the existing square footage on the assessor's card, let's see here. The living area of the existing structure is just over 1,100 square feet. There's 840 square feet of the first floor living area and 320 square feet of living area on the second story. So 25% increase would be an addition of 290 square feet. This project, as proposed, contemplates adding 245 square feet, which is less than 25% of the existing square footage. Therefore, at least under this 25% section of the rule, the project does not need to be elevated on pilings. In section 1B of our memo, we also provide the same analysis using architectural measured square foot, because we know that assessor's cards are not always, directly measured. But using those numbers measured by the architect in creation of the architecturals, we were able to do the same calculation, and the increase of square footage still does not top 25%. I'm happy to walk through those numbers if you'd like. They are included specifically in the top of page 3 of our letter. What we have is a measured calculation of 1,189 existing square feet measured, and divided by 4 gives us 297.25. So that would be the 25% increase allowed without violating that 25% threshold. And again, only 245 square feet are being added. Then we look to the second half of the substantial improvement analysis, which is the 50% rule. What the ordinance provides is that the term substantial improvement shall mean an improvement that increases the market value of the building by an amount equal to or greater than 50%. So there's 2 ways that an applicant can show this threshold is not exceeded. What we submitted is one of the provided forms of documentation under section 6B2A, I believe. So what we provided is an assessment of the market value of the structure as is today. And then the assessor looked, or the appraiser looked at the proposed plans and calculated the market value of the structure once the renovations are completed. As you can see from the architecturals, the footprint is not expanding. It's just the second floor. And these additions, while they may seem like a lot, they do not double the, increase the existing value of the structure by 50%. So I can walk through those specific numbers if the commission is interested. I know they're up on your screen right now. So using just the criteria explicitly provided in the ordinance, we kind of followed those numbers and plugged in the numbers as provided and do satisfy the requirements so that the project, well, again, makes the home look beautiful and seems like a lot of work. It does not qualify as a substantial improvement as defined under the Newburyport ordinance.
So anyone, go ahead.
Well, one part that you're doing here, as far as all this with the 50%, I don't believe, I have 2 questions. One was whether this was a single, I was a little confused by the 2 buildings. Is this 2 separate homes on it? That's the way Tom described it. Or is, how does that exactly, could you, because I didn't find through the narrative, I didn't really feel I understood what that issue was.
Sure.
And then The second's about the market, but if you could get through the first, I'll come back to it.
Sure. There are two separate single-family homes on this lot. They are both owned by the owner of the entire lot, but they are separate structures. They were built at different times. They are both wholly separate homes. And for the purposes of the substantial improvement analysis, as we are guided by the ordinance to make the analysis based per structure. So we were looking strictly at the single home that the renovations are being proposed for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't seem to me, I didn't quite see anywhere where there was a breakdown of the amount of work done. We're kind of used to seeing that. And I only see the two different assessments.
Yeah, so what the ordinance does is it provides two different methods to calculate this 50% rule. One of them is the appraised value, whether that increases 50% or not. And the requirements under the ordinance are to provide an appraisal pre-renovation and then an appraisal based on the renovations completed. A second method, and the applicant is allowed to choose which method they are going to put forward, is to essentially itemize all of the work and see if that work as itemized passes a separate financial threshold. But the option that the applicant chose to pursue is the market value and its increase in that method.
In curiosity, you have to get a building permit for this. Is there a building permit that's been taken, and is there a price or cost that's indicated in the building permit of the extent of work?
I honestly don't have that information on hand. I don't know if Tom could answer that.
Well, I think we need our permit from conservation before we can pursue a building permit. And I think part of the reason for choosing this method is it frees up a greater choice of contractors, because you don't necessarily have to have the lowest bid, which gets you, under 50% value, but may not get you the quality of work that you're looking for. But there's nothing yet been submitted to the building department that I'm aware of on the project.
Yeah, I guess I think others share this. I mean, to look at all that work and to think in terms of 56,000 seems a little odd, where you start to wonder about the assessment.
I mean, I think when you look at the existing home, there is a second floor that is being torn down. I guess what the appraiser is saying is that a slightly bigger upstairs, 240 square feet or whatever, doesn't add that much value.
Well, but Tom, you're adding a third bedroom as well. So that I would think would add alone easily more than 56,000.
Yeah, I mean,
going from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, one of which is a second floor master suite with a balcony and views of the water. In this market on Plum Island, going from 416 to 472 just doesn't seem like it passes the smell test.
Yeah, I mean, it is a licensed appraiser.
I know it is. I know. But I do have a question. Speaking of the licensed appraiser, because Olympia mentioned that they looked only at the one house. There's 2 houses on the lot, separate single family dwellings. And that this is only looking at 260. But yet if you go through the appraisal, they combine them at one point. They combine them at the end. And then the way they come to 472 is by combining the 2 properties, getting a value for that, and then taking the percentage of like floor area or something and attributing an increased value based on a percentage of floor area between the 2 structures, which didn't make any sense to me. And that's how they came up with the 56,000. And it just, I'm not familiar with that method. Haven't really seen it before. It doesn't seem to make a lot of logical sense in how you would value one structure's improvements. You wouldn't clump another structure into it and then separate out percentages when the other structure hasn't also been improved. but yet you're almost attributing some of the improved value to that other structure that hasn't even been part of the initial evaluation. I got confused with that, and I would like a little bit more explanation. And I don't know if that's something that you want to bring in the appraiser to explain to us, or we could get a peer review.
Olympia, what are your thoughts? Are you familiar enough with that section that you can address that?
Unfortunately, I am not. The appraiser took the lead on all of that, and I'm not familiar enough with the methodologies to understand or justify how he arrived at that. But I'm sure with some pointed questions, he would be willing to address these questions and concerns of the commission.
Yeah, and we can, so if we can look at, I assume this is what you've turned to. So if we can look at the actual language, we can perhaps either have him back at the next meeting or provide you with written clarification of that.
Yeah, it's this last paragraph of his report where he says applied to the market value of $1,050,000. The implied contributory value of the improvements is 630. However, this number captures both properties, 260 and 260A. The focus was to isolate the contributory value of 260 only. So therefore, he looked at the 1,914 square feet of interior space that 260 has and divides it out by percentage, and then implies this sort of like increased value by percentage to the new. It doesn't make, to me, that doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, he could explain, I'd love to hear why he did it that way, but even if he can explain why, I think we might also want a peer review of this particular appraisal.
Yeah, the owner's got his hand up.
Okay.
Want to allow him to speak?
Sure. Okay, Mr. Watkins, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm Jack Watkins. I'm an owner of the property. The difficulty the appraiser had is to find comparative properties virtually anywhere. We're in the unique position of having two buildings on one piece of property, and there are none like it that a comparative analysis could have been made with. So consequently, the appraiser had to develop a methodology to combine both of the buildings to satisfy the need for the analysis. And then when the arithmetic was done and completed, it showed the increase based upon that analysis, the need to add the second building so that it could be as comparable as possible to any other properties that were in the neighborhood or even on the island. There aren't any other houses with any other properties with two houses.
So this is a single property with two dwellings, right? So Olympia, is this like akin to a 6C development? Because then they can actually be separated, like a condo. You can sell one condo and not the other condo. Yes. Just like on a 6C, those houses can be separately owned. In this case, they're owned by the same owner right now, but they can be separately owned, which means they can be separately sold. Almost. I don't believe they can be separated. You don't believe they can be separated? I don't believe they can be separated. I believe this is a single family residential district. The lot is pre-existing non-conforming. I don't think there'd be a way to divide the ownership. So it's not a 6C situation? No, they were just both built before zoning was enacted. Okay. In either case, I'm not sure that you can apply part of the increased value created on one structure to the other structure, also based on percentage of floor area, because the other structure is not being improved. This structure is being improved. So I'm still a little fuzzy on why I understand what Mr. Watkins is saying, and that it's a unique situation, certainly, especially on Plum Island, but I'm still not sure that this is an appropriate way to divide that value of the improvements. The value of the improvements shouldn't be divided between the two structures.
Right. I think if I'm understanding what Mr. Watkins was saying, that I think it was only combined for the purpose of determining a comp price, and then they were trying to back the other house out of it. And I think what would make some sense would be for us to have the appraiser provide some clarification to you whether it's in an additional submission or addressing the commission directly. I understand the confusion, but I mean, I think these guys, you know, they live, breathe, and think this stuff, and it's a little bit foreign to those who aren't in that line of work. So I think given the commission's discomfort with that and the questions, that I think we need the maybe to have the appraiser provide a little bit of clarity to you on that. You know, I think what we probably ought to do is push us to the next meeting and give us the opportunity to provide some clarification on that.
Yeah, I would say so,
Yeah.
at the very least.
I have one question regarding the square footage. So under the 2550, you could have up to 290 square foot addition and meet the 25%. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So let's say this gets permitted, the work gets done. A few years from now, they come back and want to do something else that increases the square footage. Is it based on the new square footage or the square footage as of today, the 25%?
Julia, I don't know if you could speak more directly to that. I can take a stab at it as well.
That's a really good question, Steve.
My opinion is it ought to be based on the current square footage.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be cumulative.
What was that, Paul?
I think it was supposed to be cumulative. So if you added on a certain amount right now, and then 2 years later, more, that pushed you over the 25.
I think you're right, Paul, but unfortunately, I don't think there's language in the regs or in the ordinance that supports that in this particular substantial improvement case. And that's the tricky part, because what we try to do in the office is when somebody comes in and they say, we want to do all this now, but it kind of looks like they're going to maybe do some more later. If it's this, we tell them, if it's the same owner within the same year and you're coming in with 2 building permits, we're going to clump them together. You can't segment the project to try to get underneath this, this threshold. Right. But unfortunately, there actually isn't language that supports going back in time and making it cumulative. So if a new owner was to come in, or 3 years from now, even the same owner comes back and says, now I want to cover the 2nd floor deck that we put on back then and make it more living space. We don't have a, at least, I don't think.
Yeah, if I can address, I think the implication, and I think the assumption of the commission has always been that a few of these numbers are a cumulative thing, but since it's not explicit, it may be something you want to revisit in your next regulatory rewrite. You know, you've got the 25% increase of a structure in the AO zone, you know, in the you know, the V and the AO zones. That's not really clear. I don't think that that's cumulative, although I think that's the assumption.
It does say it's cumulative.
Oh, that one does. Okay.
Yeah.
But then if this is meant to be cumulative and you've always assumed that, I think you probably in the regulations can clarify that. And I don't, you know, without going to city council, just with a,
I'm going to tell everyone that you recommended that, Tom.
I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying that if that's something that the commission wants to do, you certainly could get that done before any, you know, further permits on this. These guys are going to have their handful with, you know, with getting this project done before you could, you know, you know, and they're not going to finish it before you could get any updates done. So
there's also somebody named Lou with her hand up. I'm assuming it's Louisa.
That would be me.
Okay.
So I just have a couple of questions I'd like to, or a couple of things I'd like to clarify on my half. You're talking about substantial renovations on it. Basically what we're doing is adding a bathroom and a closet on the 2nd floor. I'm removing the spiral staircase. Is that on me? And then and putting in a regular staircase. That's about the gist of the whole renovation. We're both in our 60s and 70s. We are looking to retire there.
Having trouble hearing you.
Can I use your phone, Jack? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. So I think what I'm just want to clarify, I'm not really sure about the 2550. It confuses me as much as it confuses you. But there are a couple of things. The upstairs addition is basically a bathroom and a closet. We're both in our 60s, Jack's in his 70s. We have a spiral staircase and we wanted to remove that spiral staircase and add a different staircase in there so it's safer for all of us. There is no bathroom there and we need to go down to the spiral staircase whenever we stay there. We're just trying to improve it. It's not any additional footage on it or outside any area that's going to be changed for conservation. It's basically just 240 feet on the second floor. That's it. And we talk about the third bedroom. On the first floor, we have a 1 bedroom there. And all we were going to do is add a wall. We have 5 grandchildren. Add a wall so that the grandchildren could stay in 1 bedroom and the parents could stay in another bedroom. So basically it's really not adding another bedroom. It's just adding a wall. And then adding and then changing the bathroom off the kitchen and putting it into the living room with the bathtub. We're big on family. We love our grandchildren and we're just trying to make it a happy place for everybody to go to. We don't really quite understand the 2550 rules, but we just want a nice place for our family to go to. We bought it as a family home and at some point to retire in. So the rules we don't quite understand because like we say, we do probably the only people on the island that own the 2 properties. So I guess we just want to be able to add on 240 feet. So we have a bathroom upstairs and a safe way to go up and down the stairs and a place for our grandchildren to come to.
Okay.
Getting back to the 50% rule, considering the uniqueness of this, how come you didn't go for the other method where you bring in an estimator or whatever and just call out how much the improvements are?
The improvements that I got pricing on the improvements, and I have anywhere from 168 to 215 on the improvements. And that's nuts. So that's redoing the siding, that's putting in new windows, and that's putting on the addition. So for us, it doesn't look like it's going to be more than $215,000 to do the improvements that we want.
What you described, does that include the painters, the electrician, the plumbing?
Yes. Yep.
Everything.
Yep. Everything. We're not redoing the heat. We're going to keep the heat as it is. We'll add in some, some of the splits in the ceiling for the air conditioning, but we're not, this is a beach house. This is a beach house. It's not a place, it's a beach house. And we want to keep it that way. We want to keep it to look like Plum Island. We love Plum Island and that's our intent. Our 2 most important things, honestly, is windows and siding.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. So we're going to get some response from the appraiser regarding this and move this off to the next meeting.
Yeah. So I think I've seen the paragraph that you guys are concerned with, and I can maybe try to talk to the appraiser and get them to clarify how they looked at all that. And if we can get them to attend the meeting, we'll do that. And if we can't, we'll try to get you something in writing. I do think, Louisa's summary was actually really helpful for me. I don't get into the, design of these things. One thing I will note is that an earlier version, which is probably what was priced on, also would have been included the cost of some skirting that we had removed from the architectural plans before filing the RDA. So it probably, you know, probably the price will drop by $500 or $1,000 because that skirting won't be going on.
Okay. So can I get a motion?
Motion to continue to our next meeting, June 15th.
Second.
Roll call, Paul Healy.
Yes.
Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
Yes.
Carol Wagon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Dan is not here still, right? He's not. All right.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
So Julie, can you demote
Yes.
Matthew Steinell and
Yeah.
You don't need anything in more, right?
No. No. And all right.
and Lou also?
And yep. Wait a minute.
Okay. Did you demote Lou? Oh, there she is. Okay, yeah. Never mind. All right, next item is City of Newburyport Reservation Terrace, minor modification to the order conditions.
Okay, so this one, let's see here. All right, this is the letter that the city received from Fisheries, Division of Fisheries and Wildlife on the Northern Reservation Terrace Shoreline Protection Project. And they had some pretty specific comments that they wanted to ensure were included in the order of conditions. In the order of conditions, and these are the comments right here, there's actually 7, goes on to the next page. I sent this to you all earlier. The conditions are pretty specific. Some of them actually are already incorporated into our order of conditions, so we don't need to add them. This first one, system installation, limit of work. Basically, it's just saying that all the work needs to conform to the approved plans. Well, that's already a special condition in our order. So we don't need to make a new condition for this one. But in terms of amending our order of conditions, I wrote in several new conditions based on these. So I wrote in the time of year restriction, this sand cover and nourishment one, that basically they want any sand excavated, that they need to excavate to put those coir envelopes down into below grade, that they want that excavated sand placed back on top, which I think that, you know, makes a lot of sense, and I think Commission would agree with. State listed species protection. This is their sort of piping plover and protected terns, nesting habitat, breeding habitat kind of protection, special conditions. So I incorporated this entire one. Compliance report and as-built plan. This is basically them asking for a certificate of compliance, you know, an as-built plan and photographs and all that. We have that in ours always, but what I did within our condition is I added this within 90 days piece. So with now it says our condition says within 90 days of completion of work, the applicant shall submit as-built plan. And the 5 years, well, our order of conditions is actually good for 3 years. So I did not add this into ours. And here is how I amended. These are our special conditions in our order. These are the new ones that I added. You can see right here. And then I didn't highlight this, but this is where I added the within 90 days of completion.
Julie, was there, am I looking at the wrong one? Was there another one on another page, or is that?
Oh yeah, to go back, actually, let's see. Number 7, notices. Upon filing for renewal, extensions, amendments, the applicant shall contact the division for written response regarding impacts to resource area habitat. Formal authorization and approval must be obtained by Department of Conservation in advance of any construction. I didn't put this in, but I can, because I felt like this didn't really involve us. But I suppose if we put it in our order of conditions, it's just an added trigger for them to go back to these other agencies. So I can add this as well.
Yeah, I would prefer to have that in there.
Okay. I'll put that in as well.
So do we have funding for this yet, or know where funding might come from?
We do have funding for it. I believe the state is picking up the cost.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding. Because it is state property, it's DCR property.
So this would get done before the dredging, because the dredging would be next fall or next winter?
Yep. Yeah, I believe that we paid for GZA's design of this project, the design and the permitting, but that the state's paying for the construction. Don't quote me, I could be wrong, but I believe that was the case. That's how we were able to get it done, essentially. And yeah, and now we're getting the notice of intent at the next meeting for the dredge, which we expect to happen sort of winter of next year and get the sand on the beach by spring. And I'm assuming that that would just be placed on top of and in coordination with these core bags. We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the only problem I have with this is you can't do anything until after August 31st, which I understand probably something with the pipe and plover, but it may be too late. We get one good storm between now and then, and Reservation Terrace could disappear. For parts of it.
It is generally the quiet season in terms of storms and in terms of erosion, but that doesn't, I mean, we lost a lot of ground last summer. So a good point.
Sometimes they will kind of do a little bit of a waiver on the plover if they have a plover monitor out there on site.
Right, that's the last bit. That it's April 1st to August 31st, unless otherwise approved in writing by the division. So
it is. I missed that.
So they can, if things are quiet, I'm sure they can ask for approval.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So if we're lucky, it'll start before August 31st.
Yeah, I'm sure they should keep track of what's going on out there and be ready to go whenever they can.
I would assume that depending on how the permitting is going and so forth, it might have some bearing on whether they go forward or not also.
Right.
I mean, on the dredging, of course.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and we can find out more on Friday, hopefully at MRBA. Everyone should be there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna get a motion.
Motion to amend the order of conditions.
Second.
Roll call. Paul Healy.
Yes.
Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
Yes.
Carol Wagon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. Next item is Robert Newman, 19 Reservation Terrace, request for determination.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have anyone here representing 19 Reservation Terrace? If you do, you can raise your hand on the Zoom and I will promote you to a panelist. If not, I can explain this project because it is very minor. Okay. In fact, we were debating whether or not this was a letter permit or an RDA, but because there are new pilings, it's an RDA. So I'll represent the applicant on this project. Mr. Newman is the contractor's KDJ Enterprises. What they are doing is, let me just scroll down to the photos here. Well, here's the summary. It's essentially, it's an existing home on Plum Island that was renovated, just basic exterior renovations several years ago. And they got they applied for a building permit to do a lot of the work. One of the things included was to replace this second egress. Both of them, I guess, but they were supposed to replace this one back here, and they never did. In fact, they put in the new door, and then they just added on like this sort of temporary plywood 4x4 platform and stairs to go down, and they never sort of finished that work. It probably would have needed to come before conservation at the time, and maybe that's why they didn't do it, but regardless, they didn't do it. It was approved by the building department, but not approved by conservation. And so now they came forward to the building department and said, okay, now we want to finish this. We want to replace the second egress. It's a 4x4 platform with stairs. We want to make it a 4x7 platform with stairs and new stronger supports, because these really are just temporary. And the building department said, well, you're going to have to go check with conservation. So they talked to me about it, and I said, you know, it is really minor. It's over an existing sort of driveway area. There's not any impact to vegetation, but because the platform is getting larger by 3 feet in one direction, and because they're installing new piles here, I felt like it should have an RDA, so that we could get the plans approved sort of more officially, get it in a file, and just have a secure sort of like approval that the work is getting done. So that's what this is. Here's the existing exit from the back door. And these are really rough. Essentially, it's going from 4x4 to 4x7. And this was their hand done application. And that's it. So no real mitigation necessary on this one, as you can see. That's it. It is what it is. No one's here to represent it.
Well, do you know what kind of pilings they're using?
Yes, they're using a Plum Island approved, the diamond pier footings, which we've seen in the past. They kind of go down and shoot out. I think they're metal.
Was that like the
diamond pier
helical one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and we were very specific. I spoke with them on the phone numerous times about all this, helping them get the application together and everything. And they totally understand the no concrete footings, but we can put that in as a special condition.
Right. Yeah.
I guess the part that bothers me is that there's no plan here, and you know, I'm a little concerned how this gets communicated to the contractor and what the contractor is going to build.
They actually have a building permit prepared with more detailed construction sort of specs. He didn't include that in the RDA, but we do have that in the office. And the dimensions are on there, and all those details are more clearly called out on those plans. They're not really professional, you know, high level engineered plans either, because again, this is just a really pretty small sort of carpentry job almost. But those specifications are there. And the person who I was speaking with about this entire project is the contractor, not the homeowner. So the contractor, you know, is aware of all these details.
Yeah, again, it's not the actual work that's being done. It's just to make sure that that is in fact what's built.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's something where, as long as they communicate with you on those plans, you know, it would be fine with me.
Well, perhaps we could include a copy of the building department's plan in with our filing, or we could just put in a condition that it will match the specifications in the building permit application.
Yeah, we can do that. In fact, when they first submitted this, they said they didn't submit any plans or drawings or photographs or anything. They just said, and even in their project description, they said seed building permit application.
Right.
And I told them that we needed more than that. And I told them that we needed some photos and we needed a sketch of what was going to be built. And so they submitted this and sort of in addition to the building department application, the building permit application, which we still have. So I guess it kind of never got like melded together, but I do have the building permit application plans and I can attach them to this for the file.
Yeah, that's good.
But Julia, you don't go out and inspect this after it's done, do you? No
RDAs don't require, you know, an as-built typically, but it does have to get inspected by building and it goes through the zoning office. And so a lot of times when it's on Plum Island, they come up and check with me to make sure, and I'll go out and take a look. So I can certainly make sure to take a look at this one.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Can I get a motion?
And the other condition would be that there are no concrete, there should be no concrete footings or other. And we can also even say that the dimensions shall remain 4 foot by 7 foot.
Okay, I'll make a motion to issue a -3.
Second.
All right, roll call. Paul Healy.
Yes.
Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
Yes.
Carol Wagon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. Next item, can I get a motion to open the public hearings?
So moved.
Uh-oh. It's up to you to decide, Gretchen. Oh, all right, Paul gets a second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. First item is Jack and Beverly Murphy, 3 Marsh Street, notice of intent.
Okay. Do we have anyone here representing 3 Marsh Street? Okay, yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yep, yeah. I'm going to promote you to a panelist again, Matt. Okay.
All right, I'm back.
Great. I have the notice of intent here and I have the plans on a separate page. You can just tell me where you want me to go.
Sure. So I think we probably just start with the plan itself, and that way we can kind of see what we're talking about. On the left-hand side of the sheet that you're looking at here, this is the existing conditions as it currently sits today. Our survey department went out and conducted a thorough survey. We worked directly with Sergio Bonilla of Mission Environmental, and he came down and did a delineation for us of the edge of the resource areas there, salt marsh, riverfront, and we conducted some survey there with elevations to determine the all the different requirements out there for the different resource areas. This one was a little bit tough because it's not a delineated, vegetated, bordering wetland. It's based on elevations because it's got riverfront here as well. So we looked at the different resource areas. We identified them down in the corner of the plan. Note number 4 lists all the different resource areas that are available here on the site. On the left-hand side, we have the graphic depiction of those resource areas and the structure, existing shed, existing single-family home, the vegetation on the right-hand side of the structure running along the property line, and the gravel driveway coming in the front. On the river side of this here, we've identified both the flood zones that cut through the building as well as the additional flood zones out further along the edge of the river itself. What the applicant is proposing to do is to construct a addition elevated on piles on the street side of the existing structure. As you can see on the right-hand side in the lighter colored tan, that's approximately 16 feet deep by 26.3 feet wide. This addition is going to be on piles. It will connect to the existing structure and provide additional living space on that level. It's a single-story addition to provide additional living space on that level for the owner who's getting a little older and can't quite go up the same number of stories to get up to the upper levels of the structure any longer. We provided a full notice of intent along with architectural renderings of the actual property of the home. You can see one here on the right-hand side with elevations applied to that to show that the bottom of the underside of the addition will meet flood zone requirements. They're very minimal disturbance. Again, most of this is in the existing gravel driveway with minimal piles. Only 3 additional piles are needed to come to the ground. although we do not anticipate a large amount of vegetation impacts, you can see on the right-hand side of the proposed addition there, there is a minor amount of shrubs, low-lying. They stand up about a foot off the ground. And I forget the name of the species, but it's like a common fir, very low shrub to the ground there. We anticipate the survival of those shrubs as well, but we are providing the commission with some compensation there for potential damage to that vegetation in the planting of 5 additional shrubs here on the riverside of the actual structure where there are currently none. To the left of that proposed plantings, that little shrub-like feature there, that's other plantings. I believe the applicant may be on the line and can speak to this, but I think those are the plant that are no longer thought to be good on the beach, the
Rosa rugosa.
Rosa rugosa, thank you. So we found an alternate species, the Virginia rose, which is still on the plant species list accepted by CZM as a potential plant that would be thriving well in this environment with the high salt content, the high amount of sunlight, wind, and potential to be saturated quite frequently. Pretty straightforward. Again, the additions up in the air. DEP is issued the file number at this point here. And I do have the legal ad and a copy of all the abutter certifications, which I can email to Julia to complete the file. Be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
Did you say DEP did issue a file number?
That's correct.
They have any comments?
Not at this time. They indicated in the filing that they received it, I think, on the 14th of this month. And under technical comments, under both comment sections, it was just blank. So they've had it for a little over 2 weeks now and have not issued any comments.
Can you all see the picture I just put up?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the house. This is the driveway, right, Matt? Is this correct? This is where the addition will go?
Yes, this is the face where the addition will go.
Yeah. So it's these shrubs right here that would get impacted, sort of bordering the driveway, and you're replacing them behind the house?
Correct.
What about those trees that look like they're brushing up against the house?
So there'll be some minor pruning of branches, but we're not removing those. Really the impacted stuff. And this, Julie, do you know when this photo was taken?
This was just today.
Really? Okay. Well, those plants are doing a heck of a lot better than they were when my crew was there literally a month and a half ago. They didn't look quite as good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a month and a half ago when we first did the survey, they literally looked like little 1 foot tall, I forget what they call it, but it's basically a low-lying evergreen type shrub, and they weren't very tall. And I looked at them and I went, oh, these are nothing. They look a lot bigger now. But again, there's about 4 or 5 of them right there that we're going to be impacting. We believe that they'll survive, and we're going to plant some additional shrubs on the other side to make up for those. The taller trees will just have the branches pruned and trimmed back.
Aside from the new construction, no modification of the driveway at all?
Correct. Correct. Is the spacing of, if you look on the plan, the spacing of the actual piles are such that they can still drive under and park. So the driveway itself will remain as it is today.
Okay, so they'll be parking below the new structure?
Correct.
And you think those plants that were 1 foot tall and now appear to be 3 or 4 will survive under the addition?
Well, because they're just under the edge of it. Again, if you look at my plan, this picture is 1,000 words, so it's hard to argue that they're growing out into the driveway a little bit here, but the actual base of the plants where my crew located it are only just under the edge of the building. So I think they're growing, up and out, and they're making them look a lot bigger going into the driveway area. If you want to pull the plan back up again, you can kind of see that on the plan where the crew located the edge of the vegetation. Okay. It's not that far under the structure as it appears here.
So is that the north side of the building? No. Okay. No.
Can you see this now?
So that would be, it would be the northeastern side of the building, or more specifically the eastern side of the building. So on the right-hand side, you can see, I'm sorry, on the left-hand side, you can see existing conditions where the vegetation sticks out a little further than we're showing on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Right
and
here.
you can almost line yourself up at the edge of the building and project it out straight. And you can see it's just, you know, it's clipping the edge of all that vegetation in there. So we suspect and anticipate that the vast majority of that vegetation will survive. We are showing it actually being removed on the right-hand side, but the intent is to leave it. And if it were to die off, then we have the 5 out on the riverside that would be compensating for those, you know, 4 bushes that are over there.
So is it all, I mean, vegetation to the right of the addition? I can see that, you know, there's a one shrub line and then there's another one. Is it all vegetation between them?
Correct. That is all vegetation. It's all, there's a few taller trees in there, and then most of the ground shrubs and ground cover in there.
Okay.
So you're saying that the Virginia rose are only going to get planted if these other shrubs don't survive?
No, we're saying that we're planting them as a compensation for potential loss of the vegetation there.
Okay.
Just that we don't anticipate that we're going to lose them all.
Okay. Good.
Okay. And just to clarify, I always get confused on Palm Island. J Street at this point looks like it's the paper street.
That's correct.
And so Marsh Street is a real street.
That's right. So Marsh Street is the real street. The property to the left of J Street has a J Street address, but they access through Marsh. They come across that way. J Street, all the way from the river straight through to the main road is all paper street. There's nothing constructed there.
Okay.
And Marsh Street kind of dead ends right there too, right?
Yeah, dead ends right there at J Street, and you turn around there at that guy's driveway, and you have to go back up Marsh, take a hard right, and it goes out to the main road.
Excuse me, we have anything else?
I'm curious, getting back to the earlier request we had with the 20%. And the living space, what is the percent here versus the actual living space?
Sure. So this is 16 feet deep by 26.3 feet wide, which is a total of 421. It's like 420.8, so 421 square feet. The existing structure, according to the assessor's records, is 1,733 square feet. So when you do the math on that, it is a 23.5% increase. So it's just under the 25% threshold.
And that little shed or whatever, that's not in the equation because it's not living space, I assume.
That's correct. And so I did speak to the owners about that. Because we are close to the limit. We're not over it, but we are close to the limit. And we had the understanding that they have very little storage there. They'd like to keep it. It's actually part of the enclosure of the backyard for their fence for their dog. And so losing that would actually impact that as well. So they don't really want to lose the shed. But if it was an issue of the shed versus getting the living space there, the reason they felt comfortable moving forward with the project at the 23.5% level is because they knew that if they had to lose that shed, that could be the difference between, you know, this moving forward or not. So they're going to proceed as if they're keeping the shed for the time being, knowing full well when they go forward with the building permit process, if there's a question there, that they may have to lose the shed.
And is there any other renovation proposed related to this project? Is there exterior siding renovations, windows, doors, interior kitchen, bathrooms, that kind of thing? Like what's the entire scope? Because yeah, we should think about substantial improvements in all these cases.
Sure. Well, I believe the applicant is actually on the line. He may be able to speak to that, but I am unaware of any other changes to the structure other than, you know, the interior connection of the addition to the current living space, you know, making those two merge and connect together. I'm unaware of any additional alterations as far as kitchen renovations, bathroom renovations, or other interior or exterior changes to the main structure as it sits today.
Is Brett Murphy the homeowner?
No, it's Jack Murphy, the homeowner.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You're showing up as Brett on the screen, though.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. We are going to be putting a new roof on. The roof is, let's see, almost over 25 years old. So we will be putting a new roof on the existing house. There's one window in the existing house that we're going to be replacing. And when we do the first floor, we're putting a master bath in, and there's an existing bathroom on the first floor now, and we're going to just change that into a half a bath.
Okay, so I mean, it might be that we were going to want to take and I know the building department has to look at substantial improvement criteria as well.
Mm-hmm.
We should maybe, just to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, have you guys do a substantial improvement certification form on this, which just, and again, if you were listening to the previous one, you can choose one of two methods, either the appraisal or the construction costs versus assessed value. Just to confirm, it sounds like you can meet the 25% rule, but we need to confirm that you can also meet the 50% increase in value rule for this project.
Yeah, just one comment on the square footage. In your narrative, you itemize it as 1,500 and 1,573 square feet, and what you just said was 1,700 something square feet. So there is a discrepancy in the numbers you're using for your calculation. And I think
on the plan it says 1,384.
Right, and then the narrative without the shed, right? So then, anyhow, it's a little confusing. These numbers aren't lining up the way you've said them.
Sure. And to be honest with you, I may have made a mistake there. While I was listening to the presentation being made prior to this year, I better quick check these numbers quick. So I pulled the town's assessor's site up, and I was basing it on that there real quick because I didn't have the plan up in front of me at the time. So if there's an error there, that's my mistake, and we can actually correct that there. But I think we're still well within the square footage requirements. We did a pretty detailed analysis on the floor area ratio requirements for the zoning application that was submitted. So I think our numbers on the plan are correct, and we can definitely confirm that and get that back to you. It sounds like we may have to go and get some additional information on the 50% rule anyways, in which case we can clarify that for the next meeting.
Yeah, I would still encourage you to clarify the square footage because I'm still a little confused, and I did a quick calculation and we're over 25%. I don't know which numbers.
Yep, that's right. That's what I mean. We can clarify it.
Yeah.
That'll make a difference.
Okay.
So Matt, I can email you the form that we have. I think it's also on our website under forms and guidelines. But I can send you an email with attached substantial improvement certification form you guys can go through.
Sure. When I get done here, I'll actually email you with the butter notification forms and the legal ad for the file. And if you want, you can just reply back and attach it.
Okay.
So the next meeting is enough time to get this put together?
It's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
June 15th.
Yeah, I suspect we should be able to get it together by then. And yeah, we should be good for that.
Okay. Are there any comments? We're all done, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments, further comments from the public? Raise your hand if so. I'm seeing no raised hands. In that case, so we need a continuance to the next meeting.
Motion to continue to June 15th.
Second.
I saw Ron say second.
I was muted. Darn.
You can decide, Joe.
No, Gretchen, Ron's got to get it. I saw him say it. All right, roll call. Paul Healy?
Yes.
Steve Moore?
Yes.
David Vine?
We
Yes.
have the assessors calculation.
Ron DeCola?
Yes.
Carol Wagon?
Yes.
It was like
And I vote
1700.
yes. All right. Let's
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
All right, get a motion to close public hearings.
So moved.
Say it, Ron. You too late.
Okay.
All in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Next item is enforcement / violations regarding Gloria Brownhart Trail.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Is Dan in the attendees? Is that Dan Warshall? I hope not.
Well,
Dan, if it's you, raise your hand. No, he didn't get stuck in the attendees. Okay,
yeah,
just wanted to check. Okay.
Okay. So I think you got to promote Jerry.
Yep. I'm promoting you, Jerry, to panelist. So you can unmute yourself. And all right.
So we had a couple issues out there with both cutting trees and taking soil from the side of the roadbed and placing it on the roadbed. And I believe Jerry got issued a notice of violation. And I think at least with regards to the soil on the roadbed, it's my opinion that has to be put back from whence it came and possibly seeded to make sure it grows back.
So do you want me to bring up those photos from the last?
You can, yeah.
Game? Can you all see this now?
Yep.
Yep.
So there's been a significant amount of damage done to areas both within 25 foot and the 100-foot buffers. And there were no applications submitted for any of this work. So, and clearly there's erosion issues happening in this area and in some other areas, which needs to be taken care of or repaired. So, and I think you need to fix the mess that's out there, Jerry.
Happily do so.
And this is going to need to be done in a expedited manner. This can't stay all summer. We need to get this taken care of, and I don't particularly care if you organize the Boy Scouts to help you with that or get volunteers to help you with that, but it needs to be done.
All right.
As far as I'm concerned, immediately.
Okay. Devote the month of June for that.
Okay.
Julia, can you show the pictures of the trees that were?
Oh yeah, these.
That one. Jerry, we talked about those. I think it was almost 2 years ago, or at least over a year ago. taking care of them and cutting the stumps down to ground level, and it hasn't happened. So I think that needs to happen too fairly soon.
You want the branches brought down to the ground?
The stumps.
Just the stumps. Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, and you know, you can see those trees just kind of laying there. It's sort of unattractive. If you get them out of sight, or at least down on the ground, pushed off to the side.
And why were those trees cut?
Because I sent a series of pictures earlier showing that during the winter, they actually go vertical, almost beyond 60% angle to blocks the bike path. And so that's when I cut them back so that to be a clear access to the bike path.
Okay, well.
They're reaching in to get sun, clearly.
Right.
Well, if they get snow on them, they do tend to bend over. But frankly, I think it makes it more attractive to have it that way. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, no future cutting of them, and just cut those stumps. Any of them that are up, you know, highlight are shown in the arrows. They're, unless the tree is actually growing back from that part of the stump, which I didn't notice any kind of growth, but if there is growth, then you should probably leave it, but otherwise cut it down to the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes trees grow into these open spaces to get sun, but roadways and such, but you can prune the trees back so that they don't inhibit travel across the path or the roadway. Pruning is one way to handle it. You don't need to chop the tree down next time.
Actually, a birch, the whole trunk goes right over. It's not like the side branches. The whole thing goes right over and completely. And I had earlier pictures showing that the complete branch goes over. It's a very weak tree. And so, but what's left there now, and when it comes to birches, are all standing pretty well erect or in a 20 to 30% degree, so that there's been no threat to the open area of the bike trail.
Okay, well, let's just don't cut any more of those trees, and just clean up what's there, what's left.
Right.
The one other thing I think you need to do is that the path that goes on to Jerry Mayette's property, I think you need to remove those trees that are basically aiming people down that path.
Oh, okay. Certainly.
Those need to be removed. We can't be promoting, as long as we don't have permission to walk on that, official permission to walk on that trail, we can't be promoting it in any way. So,
will do. I'll move them right directly so that there's no acknowledgement for that area. And that includes on the other side too, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll also block that off.
Yeah. I'm more interested in the trail exists. I'm interested, people are trespassing, but we're not going to do anything about that. We just need to not have it. The city gets some liability issues if we're allowing basically a funnel onto that path.
Right.
So
I completely understand liability issues.
So, all right.
Jerry, the other thing, the last time you were in, which I don't remember when it was, sometime last winter, that bridge just over by the landfill that we said wasn't safe and needed to be taken down. I forget which trail it is.
Yes, I was waiting for you to do a site walk. It's on my list for whenever you want to rendezvous there.
Okay, well, I was waiting for you.
Well, we're all here now. So,
so if you want to do a site walk, that's great, because I've got it on my list.
Okay.
Do we want to schedule one right now?
Sure.
What do we have for where they're coming out.
I could go anytime after 9 o'clock tomorrow.
I might be able to too. What's tomorrow?
Wednesday, June 2nd.
Yeah, I can go anytime. Same, if you're available, Jerry.
I'm available.
All right, let's do 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
All right. If I don't write it down now, I won't remember it. Okay.
I can't go tomorrow, which is fine, but perhaps when you're there tomorrow, you can go over the entire scope just to make sure there's nothing that hasn't been communicated to Jerry that he has to do.
Okay.
Sure.
We can do that. If anybody else has time to go tomorrow.
You want other people, Joe, or do you feel like you guys, the two of you, can?
Oh no! If you want to come, Carol, if you're around,
I can do it. Yeah.
It's going to be at the end of what is it, Cooper Farm Lane?
Colby Farm Lane.
Yeah, it's always right, Cooper for me.
Right past the landfill, and then you kind of dead end right at the beginning of the trail, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's a parking area there, and we can all walk down there. Yeah.
I have a city hall meeting tomorrow morning, so I won't be able to make it, but you can let me know.
I'm not going to go either.
Okay. So 9
we're not going in at the same place where we did the last time when we did the site visit. You're saying go the other direction. Okay.
No, this is down Colby Farm Lane to where the yard waste facility is. Yeah, it's just past that.
Okay.
Down there. All right. Okay. So how about if we put a time limit as of the end of June?
That's perfect.
All right. And this is for the whole length where there's soil put on the roadbed. We need to. I don't know where everything came from, but all that stuff you put down, Jerry's got to be moved. But we can discuss that further tomorrow too. So, all right. Do we have anything else on this? Do we need to have some sort of a vote regarding by when it must be done?
Not a bad idea, just to get it kind of confirmed, consensus.
Okay, in the minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the cleanup of the Gloria Brownhart bicycle trail will be finished by the end of June 2021.
Second.
Roll call. Paul Healy. You vote, Paul?
Excuse me, yes.
Okay. Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola.
Yes.
Carol Wagon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right. Thank you, Jerry. We will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
9 o'clock. Excellent.
All right.
See you then.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right.
Do we have anything else?
I got two things.
Okay.
I'll keep them short. I think we ought to do what Tom suggested about the cumulative square footage in the regulations. I don't know, do we need a public hearing to do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I'm glad you remembered that. I forgot to say it at the time.
I think we should definitely have a public hearing, and I think it does require some discussion because in a lot of ways it's substantive change. and that's going to affect people. I think we need to think about whether or not we want it to be there to be like a time limit on that, so that if somebody moves in 10 years later and they want to put on an addition, that it's because the intent of that 25% rule in some ways is that if someone's going to increase their property, you know, size, then that's a significant improvement. But if they buy it at one size and they're increasing it by a little bit, I just think you have to think about how it's going to be received by homeowners out there.
Well, what does apparently in the V zone, we already have that language.
Well, in some ways we do. In the V zone and the AO zone, you're not allowed to increase the foot. It is cumulative. You're not allowed to increase the footprint by more than 20% cumulatively. And so we keep track of that over time. If someone comes in with a new permit application, we go back and we look and see what they've done previously, and if they've added on, put any additions, and how much those have been. But this is different. This is the substantial improvement clause, which triggers whether or not somebody has to put their entire structure up on pilings. It's not that they can't increase, you know, if they're in the E zone or in the X zone, it's not that they can't increase their floor area. It's just that if they do beyond 25%, they have to go up on pilings. So it's slightly different. Well, I guess, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But in the V and the AO, you can't increase beyond 20% at all.
Even if you're a new owner, let's say somebody,
even if you're a new
19% sells the house, the new owner can't do any more than 1% of what it was before.
Right. That's in the V and the AO. Yeah.
Okay.
Julia, is there some other regulation or regulations that would give us a comparable time limit that we could put on this? Because you would have to assume pass some sort of reasonableness standard.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm getting at. So in the office, we've talked about what we really don't want is people segmenting their projects so that they can get a couple different building permits and get a bigger thing and get, you know, same with the 50% rule. They come in and they want to do the first floor renovation and it's just all interior and it's no big deal and it's way under 50% improvement. And then 6 months later, they do the second floor and put on addition or the entire exterior siding and all new windows and doors. And so that's what we're trying to prevent. So we've talked about it in the office, and there's no language that gives us the teeth to clump those things together right now. So we've talked about saying something like if it's the same owner within the same 2-year period, let's say, then do you consider that one project? You know, we don't really have, I don't want to say it's arbitrary, but we haven't come up with the right way to handle it yet. And at some point you just have to decide what's reasonable and what's not reasonable.
Well, I would think we might want to include, like in an order of conditions for one that does pass, that we put in a condition or just verbiage in whatever they file with the registry that tells what the starting point is. And that it cannot go beyond that, the 25 or 50. And I don't think there's any need to have a time limit.
Any sense on how other conservation commissions or any other reference as far as how this is handled elsewhere?
It's funny because not many other communities have the kind of regulations that we have. They don't have, you know, what we have for Plum Island is so very specific to us and so unique. And I don't think Newbury enforces these things even as much as we do. So, but one thing I was thinking is that, because I talk about this a lot with our zoning enforcement officer, our zoning administrator, Jennifer Blanchard, she looks at every building permit that comes in, that because they also have this substantial improvement criteria for something going up on pilings, that we should be on the same page with them. You know?
Yeah, I was going to ask about getting opinions from her and from Andy regarding new language, but we should at least be where zoning is on it.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that they are interested in finding a way to improve this. particular issue. So maybe it's worth having it on our agenda one night and seeing if they want to come and discuss it. Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, some of the towns down on the Cape might have similar issues. You know.
Yeah, maybe, right. Yep.
So I'd like to get this going sooner rather than later because I think it's important.
Okay. Can we see if Jennifer can come to the next meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, let me talk to Jennifer and Andy about this tomorrow and see what their thoughts are, and I'll email you guys and let you know kind of what they think. Okay. Or maybe I'll just include everybody on the same email. Okay. There is one more thing though that I wanted you all to address tonight under old business, if there isn't anything else.
Yeah, I've got one other thing.
Okay.
Well, Joe and Julia know I contacted that professor from UMass Dartmouth about doing a pollinator, something with pollinators on Colby Farm Lane with that land we're going to get. And he said he'd like to come out in early June and see what was in blossom at that time. And so I'm going to send him an email and see when he wants to come. Julie and I have been talking about, you know, which land the city currently actually owns. And,
yeah.
So those two properties that are now one property that face Low Street, the city does own according to me maps.
Yeah.
The other parcel has not been transferred yet.
It hasn't been conveyed yet, and we've been digging into why it hasn't been conveyed yet. And it's because they, and they need to do it soon, but it's because they were constructing that public pathway, the little walkway over there, and that would be on city property eventually. And they wanted to construct that while they were still in ownership of the property, and then give it to us with an as-built plan before they conveyed it. So that was apparently what held up parcel one. Okay.
So anyway, I don't know. I'll make arrangements for this guy to come sometime, probably in the next couple of weeks. If anybody else wants to join on the visit, see what he has to say.
I'll join.
Oh yeah, yeah. Send it to everybody. The information, and who can come will show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's 4 or 5 acres. If they've already transferred that front property, and we already own the other one, because there's got to be 5 acres worth of land there, which for me, I would prefer him focusing on that area because it's more publicly accessible, and we can put up signage or something saying what we're doing there.
Yeah, well, traditionally that up until the last couple of years, that was mowed for hay. And I was looking for something else and happened to run across Patrick Seacamp's plan for the land, you know, for pollinators. And I think he recommended continuing mowing that. And the other parcel is in sort of secondary succession status and maintaining it as such. You know, when Joe and I went out and walked out there, boy, there's a lot of stuff that's growing there. I'm not sure what would need to come out and what could be mowed and so on. But it would be difficult to put a trail through where we went right now because there's a lot of stuff that's grown up. But anyway.
Stuff. There's a lot of ticks. There's a lot of turkeys.
So anyway, when I find out when this guy's coming, I'll let everybody know.
Has he seen the Patrick Seacamp pollinator habitat meadow management plan? I'm curious as to what he might think of that.
Yeah, I just ran across it yesterday when I was looking for something else. I'll scan it and send it to him when I contact him.
Be interesting to know what he thinks of what Patrick did.
Anyway,
that's good.
That was it.
Okay.
And you had something, Julie?
So the only thing I had was I sent you all today an email, which was a letter from some of the residents at Evergreen with their thoughts on the proposal to have the developer put a fence out there which in the area which would delineate the city's water supply protection property where the well is, and the backyards of those, 6 or 7 homes along, I guess it's Gabbery. Can't remember the name of that particular street in the development, but we had proposed that the developer put a split rail fence back there and maybe some signage on it so that people can't go up into the city's water supply protection property and dump things or whatever. It's just it's an area that we need to protect, and we thought that there should be a physical delineation where people could tell the difference between the city property and the private property. And the homeowners are throwing up some objections to that. They're not in favor of the fence. So I forwarded you their letter, and I just wanted to have you all take a look and let me know what you think about it, because they addressed it to the Conservation Commission. Not that you have to do anything with it, but they did address it to Joe and to the rest of you, so I forwarded it on.
Okay, and Carol, you had comments regarding such things?
Well, yeah, I mean, my concern is that should we let it go and then just kind of forget about it, or the city forgets about it? There is a law that says after 20 years, if somebody has been using land and hasn't been pushed back, basically, it becomes their land. So there could be a problem. I mean, obviously, who knows who will still be around in 20 years of the commission, but I feel like if we're trying to represent the city in some way and protect the city property, that is deserves more consideration than the homeowners not particularly wanting a fence back there. I mean, it could be a nice looking fence. I don't know where the money comes to build the fence, or if that's the developer would have to do it. But I mean, it wouldn't even, and even if it wasn't a fence, it would just have to be clearer markings, because when we were all out there, you could see people were already encroaching on the city property. So
yeah, it seemed like kids were playing along there and everything. I mean, it certainly, you certainly wouldn't get the feeling like this is a place you're not supposed to go.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we care about that so much. I mean, maybe it's okay if people are on the other side of the fence. I guess that's something we should think about. But I do feel like it's important to have some clearer demarcation of where the city land starts.
Well, yeah, and just the fact that somebody dumped back on the city property, I don't care whether it was a contractor or a homeowner or whatever. Somebody dumped in a couple of places, and that's city property, and they can't be dumping there, and then we should be making it difficult for them to, at the very least, to do that. And
well, yes, I guess that brings up a question of whether we ultimately would want to have no trespassing signs of some sort, if you don't want people to go back there at all. I don't know if we go to that.
Oh, I think so. That water supply well is untreated. It's untreated water that goes directly into our water supply, and anything that goes into the ground right there goes into the well. I would say for sure that that's not where people are supposed to be, and that's why we're taking that additional land to protect it. And I guess my concern is that I know the residents all mean well, and they don't have any intent to harm, and they don't want a fence for whatever their reasons are. But we're talking about the whole future of this development, and this is we've already seen dumping, and it's only they're not even done construction yet. So let's think 50 years ahead. I mean, we still need that water, and that's water still coming from that well. And so we don't know who's going to be living there then, and things, evolve over time, and people stop paying attention. And even right now, while people are paying attention, there has been dumping back there. So to me, I think it's pretty important to create a real delineation.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of the letter was like, oh, you've already asked us to do all these other things. How could you ask us to do more? That you're infringing too much on our property rights. So it makes me feel like the message wasn't conveyed clearly by the developers or whoever sold people their property there about what was going to be the extent of their responsibility. But that's not our fault.
Well, and it's also, imagine, with your neighbor, and if they put a fence in their backyard, you're not going to argue with them about putting a fence in their backyard to delineate their backyard from your backyard. You wouldn't say, well, I want to keep going in your backyard. You know, you would say, okay, put the fence up. Otherwise, it's indicating that you want to continue to somehow use that property, right, which is not part of the plan. So doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I would bet $100 that kids are using that area as a play area. It's flat, it's wide open, and they're using it, and parents want their kids to be able to use it. But it's you know, important property that people can't be messing with. So
right, they probably just look at it as this is our backyard, and we have the right to use it. So
you have a right to use it.
That's the problem, and that's the problem with it being so flat and all mowed. And it does look like a great play area for kids, and I'm sure that, you know, I'd want my kids to be able to play there too. But that's sort of the problem with it being, with there not being a fence, is that it is so inviting to just go back up that hill and use the land, but then also go back up into the woods and kind of have there be no delineation between, well, where one property ends and where the other begins. And in most cases, maybe that wouldn't matter. But in this case, because of where that well is and how important that well is, I think it does matter in this case. Unfortunately.
I saw somewhere, and I can't remember where now, that at another meeting that we weren't at, that there was some statement by the developers that they were willing to pay for a fence now. Am I right about that?
Yeah, the planning board asked them for it as well. And I believe that they indicated that they would be.
Yeah, it was in one of the documents you sent out.
That's what it said. It said that, and that's what they were reacting to.
Oh, good.
The homeowners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the fence does go up, is it the homeowners association's responsibility to maintain it in perpetuity?
I don't know. That's a good question. You have to talk to the city and the legal, you know, lease meet and everyone about that. My guess is the city would probably maintain it.
Yeah,
I would think it would be the city's responsibility if the city put the fence up.
Yeah, I think in fact, I think they discussed that it would go just inside the city property.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so the developer is putting it up, but it's going to be the city's responsibility to maintain it.
I think so. Well, you know, and I do think it's important somewhere along the way, if there's, you know, the feeling that nobody should be going back there, that there'd be no trespassing signs, because it's one thing to say there's a fence, but if it's a split rail fence, kids can jump over it, you know?
I wouldn't put a no trespassing sign, but some other sign that indicates don't go past here. Maybe be legal.
Or maybe just City of Newburyport water supply protection property, no trespassing, no dumping, or whatever that might be. Maybe just strictly City of Newburyport water supply protection property.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they can work on that.
Yeah. Well, they'll come up with something. Planning board's on it too. So, Carol, I wanted to go back to one of your comments about you didn't know who would be on the commission in 20 years. Paul will be on a commission in 20 years.
And I'm sure you'll still be the chair, Joe. So
yep.
So Carol, if the fence doesn't go up and people use that for 20 years, you said they would own the property? Do they own it, or do they have the use of it?
No. You lose the right to claim that property is yours if it's been used openly by somebody else or other people or whatever for 20 years.
Okay.
That's basically squatters' rights, right?
Well, kind of.
It's an old state law.
Yeah,
called adverse possession.
Yeah.
I guess they already have a year or so of it too.
So we better get that fence up within the next 19 years.
Yeah.
I see issues with the city maintaining it because it's out of sight. You know, you can't drive by and see it.
Yeah.
It is, but it's a water protection area too. It's you know, one would expect that somebody from the water department is inspecting the property for illegal dumping. They must be doing something that one would expect, but maybe I'm expecting too much.
you
Well,
might.
I mean, split rail fence doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance either. I mean,
Yeah.
No, but after 10 years, it, you know, the posts rot or the rails might break, or, you know, it's not going to last 100 years.
No, it's not.
yeah, I don't know how it fits in, whether who would be responsible for maintaining it, but I guess we have an opportunity to decide now.
Let's at least get one up there.
Yeah.
So, are we set on that?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
So are you going to respond to the letter, Joe?
What's that?
Are you going to respond to their letter, or do we not need to do anything about it?
I could respond to the letter and say that it was discussed, you know, that their letter was reviewed at the Conservation Commission public meeting. If you want to make some sort of statement about it. Otherwise, I don't know that it requires a response. I think the city's already moving forward with asking them to do a fence. But if you want to make a response that says we continue to support the installation of a split rail fence in that location, then that might just sort of put a period on the end of it.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, and the discussion with the planning board is probably worthwhile, because I mean, right now they were copied on this, but they're of the opinion that this was resolved.
Okay, well, then we want to make a statement, take a motion. All right.
Okay, I'll move that the commission via Julia responds to the letter from the homeowners expressing our belief and support in the offense to demarcate the city property.
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Paul Healy.
Yes.
Steve Moore.
Yes.
David Vine.
Yes.
Ron DeCola. Carol Wagon.
Yes.
And I vote yes. All righty.
Well, is it the planning board or us who gets to decide, or should decide, who is responsible for maintenance? Is it the city or is it the homeowners?
Well, it's getting put on the city property.
Yeah.
So
the city
it would be city.
All right.
You know, I think I left the visit before you guys went out to this area, but is there any value, you know, letting this area grow in so that it's not so inviting to kids, you know, let it succeed or go wild? I don't know what we do or don't do there, but is that an option as well?
That's what I was thinking, because it will go wild if you know, if people aren't going into that area. I was thinking the same thing, to let it
Well, didn't the letter mention something to that effect, where that was their recommendation? But I wonder who's mowing it now.
Probably the landscaping folks are mowing it, because there's no delineation as to where they stop.
Yeah.
There's just the you know, the little incline going up to the city property, and all the rest of it is all open. So I'm sure they're just running their motors through there too.
That might be something that should be established also.
Well, if a fence gets put up there, I'm certain they're not going to go on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, because then you know, then they'll realize it's not the homeowner's property, and so why should they be spending their time doing it?
Yeah. I'm probably going to object to that because of ticks and so forth. But
well, there's ticks in the woods just beyond there. So, but
I'm sure there's ticks all over the place.
All over that property.
Yeah. So it's a city property, and we need it to be protected. So. Do we have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
What?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Yeah. Do we have to do? I'll do a roll call. Paul Ely,
Yes.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
David Vine,
Yes.
Ron DeCola,
Yes.
Carol Wagon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
you.
Have a good evening.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.